Hey everybody, what's going on? It's me, Mark Wiggins, and as you know, I'm out in the streets doing what I do best. Today, listen, I'm at a gym. I'm at a place where, unless you know something about it, you don't know nothing about it. But it's a thing that if you used to do it, you know something about it, and that thing is roller skating. Now, if you know anything about me, or you don't, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and I spent my time in two places. It was the Blue Goose and the Shaw St. Clair skating rink, which was owned by my uncle James and the Wiggins family, because that's all we did. We had to work all day in order to skate all night. That's exactly what we did. But anyway, I'm down here. Let me just turn around and show you where I'm at. I'm at the National African American Roller Skating Archive. And this lovely space is here, and we have the curator of this museum, this archive, and tell everybody who you are.
I'm Tasha Klusmann.
Welcome. Tasha, thank you for having us down from Off the Bench magazine. And you were very passionate. We've had some early conversations about this museum, this archive, and this project, and this love project you're working on. So first of all, just give us an overview of who you are and what you're doing down here.
This is Roller Skating Then and Now. It's an exhibit from our collection. So the National African American Roller Skating Archive was established in 2004 with Howard University. They are our repository, and we literally reach out to skaters and families like yours from across the country to share their history. So Howard University, again, is a space that keeps things safe for hundreds of years for the purpose of research. So papers and documents and photographs, again, we work to ensure that this history is available 100 years from now. And when you talk about the Blue Goose, that's one of those historic rinks that we've heard so much about. So we look to get that history documented. So if it's a flyer, an old picture, individual skater stories. And so each piece you see here has come from somebody to Washington, D.C., to the archives. And this exhibit is really just a taste of what we have and what we're trying to continue to collect.
Yeah, so you know about the Blue Goose? You heard about the Blue Goose?
I've heard about the Blue Goose. I've heard that there was a spot on the floor where they would come and stop and the whole place would just, right? So
the Blue Goose, Mr. Kennedy. Shouts out to the Kennedys who lived up the street from me.
Okay.
And we would go down there to the skating rink where I wasn't going to Shaw St. Clair, which my family's. I was going to Mr. Kennedy. My daddy had lockers down there. So I had to go work all the time. And did not know until just recently that Mr. Kennedy was a Tuskegee Airman. And his daughter, Tina, has been now making films. So I'm actually trying to track her down to get her story on. But she's got published films about her dad, her mom, and that just really was released. But anyway, it runs deep. And of course, Shaw St. Clair was my people's stuff, and that was there all the time. Everybody knew Shaw St. Clair. So talk to more about the archive and what was your impetus to get involved, your off-the-bench moment to get involved with this.
Well, I'm a skater. I grew up here skating in Washington, D.C. And I have a sort of unique roller skating story in the fact that I kind of came up as a kid. I remember my first time going to the session. You had to kind of be a teenager. So I had an older brother and some neighbors across the street. And so they're in junior high school and I'm in elementary school. So the first time I got to go without the parents to the rink was a big deal. And that was Forestville Skating Rink. And so early on, I saw the skate clubs and fell in love with it. I wanted to be like Barbara, Miss Magic, and she had her shirt and she could really skate. I wanted to be that person. I had that sweetness moment, and I went on to have my first job at Anacostia Park, roller skating like a volunteer, and then through Mayor Berry's summer youth program. And I actually ended up taking roller skating classes from Miss Connie Pollard at Calorama Road Skating Rink. I was at the School Without Walls, and they let me take gym. Roller skating as my gym class, right?
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, I mean, for real. So I had a chance to be exposed to figures and dance and speed. Miss Connie asked if I could skate with her after. My mom couldn't afford to pay for the lesson, so she found me a group, and I ended up with the Wheels of Fortune. And so that's me, and that's me. So it was a group that performed all over.
Wait, point it out again so we can see.
That's me.
Oh, look at you down in front trying to flex.
That's me.
Up in the air. Okay, were you spinning around in circles?
Yeah. Again, it was a life-changing experience. My first plane ride was to Coca-Cola's 100th birthday to perform. We opened up the Union Station here. We opened up the Post Office Pavilion. We did parades all over the city. It was a real thing. And so I learned early that roller skating was, of course, growing up. It was competitive. It was performance. It was again, life-changing. And I had a chance again to grow up around a lot of skate elders. That's how you learn how to skate. You know that. You're at the rink, you see the older skaters, they show you how to do it, you aspire to do it. And one skater in particular, Honey Boy, was he really is a skate ambassador, almost a godfather for the city. And he was telling me a story about a rink that is now, was where the Kennedy Center is now.
So back to run it one more time. So what?
There used to be a roller rink
Wow.
where the Kennedy Center used to be. And this was early 1900s. He was a little black boy who couldn't go into this white-only rink. And he said on the end of the rink, it was all windows, and that faced that water part, and he would peek in the window and watch them skate. So he always wanted to skate. When he told me this story, it hit me there was a lot of things about skating that I didn't know. Right here in my own city. And so that kind of started us to do a documentary about it, but we couldn't find any history. So what we literally discovered is the history was in our homes. And Black people don't seem to, we absolutely don't know the value, you know? We talk about hidden stories, but the stories aren't really hidden. They're just in our minds and in our homes. Like, they don't get to a place where now becomes common knowledge, right? So we literally have taken on that task of reaching out to people and saying, hey, that program that you have, that flyer that you have, that passion, those things you put away, what's going to happen to them when you pass away? Right? So give them to us now, will them to us, but make sure they end up in the repository, because it becomes a full story, right? And what I discovered was that this thing that we did in Washington that I thought was very unique literally was happening simultaneously across the country, where you had, for decades and generations, Black people engaged in roller skating. And we started kind of like the rest of the world, of the country, doing waltz skating, everybody in that real clean look and waltzing around. But when records started to be very available, each city picked its own sound. And that's how you end up with these different styles that we do. And that's one of the things we've been able to document. Going around the country, people say, well, I skate Detroit style, or I skate New York style, or DC style. And so you have different styles. It's tempo-based, it's regional, and it's an athletic art form that we created. So again, that's one of the things we've been able to really document, and in some cases can kind of tell you the history of where it came from. I mean, it starts with the tempo, but it has a lot to do with the rink. You know, what was the size of the rink? What was the style of music in that era? How did they dress? Again, it's been, as you say, not just a passion project, but very eye-opening. Again, I continue to be so amazed and impressed with who we are. And depending on the community, you know, sometimes it's an affluent community where there's Black rink ownership. Other times it's not an affluent community, but somehow they struggle through, quite often, you know, dealing with the racism or the, you know, the lack of, but still to skate and to create a style and really to have a community. Roller skating is as you described, it really connects a community. When there is a rink right now that we are in touch with, the Rollercade. It is 67 years old. It's been in the same family for 3 generations, right? A Black-owned rink. And so when you have that kind of community, I was able to call Detroit and say, hey, tell me about the Rollercade. Oh, the family, you know, the folks' family. We know them, and our kids have gone, our grandkids, that kind of energy. And so that's what roller skating, again, shows us, our communities, you know, how they are and where they are in terms of, you know, the connectivity, really. I mean, I will tell you, too, we did we participated with StoryCorps. We went across the country. We did over 130 oral histories. And I could visualize the Black migration through the things that people were sharing. The Black migration really became clear to me too through the Rollercade story. The folks' family, the folks who started this, the parents who started the rink, they left the South. And particularly said for safety. We wanted to be safe. We wanted our family to be safer. And got to Detroit. And that neighborhood was blooming because Ford was paying everybody good money. And they said, we want to own a business too. They didn't know what business. But the kids said, let's do a roller skating rink. Again, 67 years later, continuously operating, continuously supportive of that community. Still there. And so those kind of stories, again, show me, remind me of who our community is. And like I said, not just here in D.C., Chicago, Detroit, you know, Ohio. Again, in Ohio doesn't have one style. Cleveland has a style,
Yep.
Cincinnati, you know what I'm saying? You got at least 3 styles in Ohio. And so depending on the transition around music and even the slight shift in culture in our community, we are so, we're often portrayed as just being so monolithic, and we just aren't. You know, we just aren't. And again, it shows up in the skating. So through skating, I had the opportunity to, I don't know, appreciate who we are as a community. You know?
Yeah, I love your energy, and people are chopping in, and you know, remember your skate story. Everybody got a skate story.
Yes.
You know, the first time you went out on the floor, the first time you fell, backward skate. Lord, that was an amazement. I don't know how to backward skate. And of course, you run into a wall. But that's beside the point. So tell me now, again, you talk about the culture and how we as Black people don't do a really good job of understanding what we're involved with, because we just did it for us at that moment. You know what I'm saying? We did it for our community was this. This could be the same archive for the Black church, right?
Yes.
Our whole community was involved in that Black church. It started at the church. No matter what you did, it started at the church. So now you have this environment here. What was the transitional period to really make it explode? Was there a point in time in history, Black history skating, where it was like the business, like it was just everywhere?
You know, first let me say that roller skating, and I want to talk a little bit about the skate itself.
Come on.
So having 2 wheels in the front, 2 wheels in the back was the last design. You know, ice skates are first in this family, then you have rollerblades for 100 years before you have the 2 and the 2, right? And this design is to dance. That was the design. Previously, it was about traveling. I want to travel across the ice. I want to travel across dry land. No, we want to do this more gracefully. We want to do this better. We want to dance. This is an American design, 1863. So what I want, you know, we got it as soon as it came about. And, you know, when it comes to that dancing thing, that's something we're going to take on. So skating starts out with really being performance. It's a rich man's kind of sport because you don't have a lot of concrete and a lot of floor. If you have a ballroom, you can do it, right? So what we find, again, is in those very affluent communities, you have the roller rinks. But how we connected to it had everything to do with, I think, the dance and the movement. So we're waltzing around like the industry started out. But when the records became available to everybody, again, you have us tune in differently. And so like you said, it just becomes a jumping off point. When you talk about the moment, I think the moment is when you can pick your tempo. And although many people talk about roller skating coming and going, it really is not true. Roller skating is consistent. It's a part of growing up in America. I don't know why roller skating doesn't have the same kind of support and backing as basketball and tennis and the pool and all of that. Because literally, as you said, everybody's got a skate story. Whether you've done it once or twice when you were coming up, or you stayed in it your whole life. It's a lifetime sport. We got people skating well into their 80s, right? So it's consistent. Every generation has a chance to try it, participate in it, more or less, right? So it doesn't really come and go. There are peaks, there are moments when it becomes very hot. Like right now, we're in a big hot spell. COVID has made everybody aware that this is a good thing. It is a stress reliever. It is absolutely fun. You get your dance on. You can do it with your friends or by yourself. You can do it outside or inside. Roller skating rinks didn't close down very long under COVID. You know, you don't spend a lot of time just like this. You're moving, right? So it's in a high period because people are seeing how flexible it is, healthy, fun. So we're kind of in a peak, but just know it never has stopped, right? You know, we went through this phase where all you can find was rollerblades and not roller skates. Thank God that's over, right? Because I always say it's 2 different kinds of equipment. It really, really is. It has different intention. But those 16 edges, you know, those 8 wheels give you, it's all about movement. And there is something about, I think, that has really also hooked us. Because it just enables you to a freedom that I don't know what else does. I mean, it takes you to, you can run, you can jump, but then you can glide. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that aerodynamics that we take to so many things, now you add the edges, and I mean, we got some people doing some awesome things. And there've always been those very athletic people who are going to do the stunts and the jumps and all of that. Then you got your dancers. I mean, you know, some of the the style skate community, the adult style skate community that travels, that go to the national parties, when you take to the floor and you can just see the different styles. Where they from? You know, kind of know where people are from. Recently, we used to have roll calls, so you would kind of sit and watch the different states come out and do their thing because it's a little bit different for everybody. Now they have style calls because it's gotten to the point where people are learning different styles, not necessarily where you're from, but you know the moves. So now you can get out and go out on a style call. So it's a chance to bring your own thing to it. You know, used to be a time when not just the style of skate, but the dress, the style of shoe, skate was very different. Now people are choosing what they want to look like. So in DC, we've always been very conservative, clean cut. So, you know, the traditional black skates or white skates. Now, you know, it really has diversified. I always say that I think that we're seeing the impact of the internet. We're seeing the impact of COVID because now people are able to pick and choose what they want. And you don't necessarily have to go to the Blue Goose to get the Blue Goose. Now you can watch it, you know, on the internet, and people are picking it up like that. But there was a time when you really had to go either to that region to get it, or you had to go to one of the national parties. So
how does that affect the socialization of it all? Because if it was a community grab to go to wherever now I can watch it and not. So how is that affecting skating today?
We're having to watch it unfold. I mean, as a historian at this point, I'm watching that. What I would say is some of that heart that that you felt from growing up there, you can't get from just the internet. You can't. And you also don't necessarily get it when you go to a party. This community, the style skate community, has been called underground. That's not true. You know, the underground term, I think, is mostly applied to like punk music or something. Nothing underground about roller skating. It's there. Everybody knows about it. You might not have known it was going on or how we were doing it. And so when people cover it, they may call it that. But this social media, the cameras everywhere, one, on a positive, it's helping us document it. It is making it more commercial. You know, you're seeing a lot more skate commercials right now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So just like the internet has helped many artistic people get recognized, I think it's doing that better. But some of the heart and some of the community of it, you know, is dissipating. I also think that learning it from your skate elders has a respect component and dynamic to it.
Explain that around a little bit from my elders. Talk what that's about.
When I was coming up, you learned from being at the rink. And you partially learned because you couldn't get out there until you could get out there. Right? You laughing, so you know what I mean? You know,
exactly.
You had to work to get good, right? And then when you got good, you knew you were good. But you also knew who the people were in the rink. I mean, not only were there clubs that I can just visualize them. Supreme Wheelers, you know, real classy. They were one of the first clubs in DC, started in 1957. You know, I came around upon them when they were like in their second iteration, and their women just were classy. You know, I wanted to be like them. You know, Mr. B's Delights, or I mentioned Barbara Magic. There were people who you looked up to, Miss Virulin. So as I mentioned people's names, I can just see them moving and skating, and I aspired to be that. I also learned, I think, a different form of respect, because when you see your people skating like that, it affirms you. And I say now too, when I put on my skates, the children look different. When kids see you moving like that,
right,
they still that energy still exists. But I don't know if they come the same way. I mean, we're having this kind of conversation. Some of us who are blessed enough to maybe be getting to be that eldership, do they come? You know, are they willing to learn their regional style before they get on the national scene? What does it do when you want to skate a different region style, but you're in your city? The group I was with, the Wheels of Fortune, I'm in DC, and they really skated a very mixed bag. Like the performance style they had was a mixed styles, and this is in the 80s. And one of those styles was New York style, totally different beat. So I'm struggling down here with the DC music, trying to get this up-tempo New York beat. Well, we went up to Roxy's, and Roxy's in New York is totally different than DC. Roxy's, for me, was a nightclub on skates, right? I mean, the lights and everything, but the beat, you're going to get that tempo. You don't get that style because that beat, you just immersed. You have no choice. I mean, by the time I left, I had it. But it was so prominent that I really couldn't even do DC style in there. The beat just kept me that up tempo, right? And I find myself now, depending on what the tempo of the music is, will depend what I will style I'll go into. But to learn it well, you really have to immerse yourself. And I've always appreciated traveling to a city and just experiencing what's happening at their ring. You know, going in and looking for the pattern and there's also a etiquette. DC, we're fast to the outside. If you can't roll, you need to get in the middle. Right. And there's some people who do the slow walk on the outside and are doing different things. So you can't show up in their city and now think you're going to take the rail. You have to be willing to learn the rules of that rink. And so that's the etiquette. That's the culture that you can miss, that you won't get off watching somebody on the internet on a video. Go.
Now, you've done a great deal of work and it looks beautiful in here. Pick me one of your favorite stories. We talked about this a bit earlier. What this piece evokes one of the best stories for you in this collection?
One of the things that people talk about a lot is a skate key and these metal skates.
Talk to me.
We've talked to people all over the country and they remember skating on metal skates, right? And if you had a pair of metal skates, it was a freedom, but you probably only got them once or twice a year. And you weren't going to get a replacement, right? You know, things don't roll out like they do now, young folk, right? You had it, you keep it, you take care of it. They talk about if it broke, they would turn it into a skateboard or a box scooter. So the first skateboards are really the invention of roller skaters. And this key, again, people will stand here and they'll just say, oh, I had a key and my sister's skate broke and this is what we did and we skated for hours going down the hills or what have you. And so this is very much a part of roller skating and for communities all across the country.
Nice. Now, what would you claim to be the number one roller skating song? Like what was the one that got everybody on the floor?
That's a hard question.
That's why I asked the hard questions.
Well, you know what? I'm going to have to go regional on you.
Okay,
you know,
go regional.
Talk about
DC. Talk about DC and tell me what you know. Tell me what you know.
Talk about DC. So, you know, things that jump out of my mind. First of all, we came off the organ because we were big time on the organ. DC's National Roller Rink at Calhoun Road had a thumping organ. Thumping, right?
Right.
So the rink was totally white from 47 to 57. And then seemingly because folks moved out, the rink almost overnight became all black. And it was in pristine condition. The organ was great and had a full, you know, program that kept running. And so you had some really strong skaters develop at Calorama Road. We came off the organ and went to the Quiet Storm. So if you're from DC, Melvin Lindsay's Quiet Storm, that, you know, that moody rhythm and blues, right? So your Isley Brothers, Barry White, Anita Baker, oh my gosh. And I'm a singer, right? And when I say that, when I skate, I'm the one who's doing the lyrics. But if you're in DC, you can pick what you want. You could, you know, you can do that guitar, you can, whatever your section is, but I'm singing. So, you know, I love a Tina Marie or Phyllis Hyman. So, you know, I'm talking about moody stuff. But we're going fast to the outside, right? So just going beautiful. And I think about like Richard, the DJ, he would go, roll with it, roll with it. You know, so I always said about us as a roll with it style, fast to the outside. I love the DeBarge playing, and you hear certain songs, you hear everybody say the same thing at the same time. I mean, it's just so many. What would be my favorite? And I don't even know if I'm typical, because again, I'm thinking my Tina Marie's and my Phyllis Hymans. But all of that Quiet Storm sound is what DC traditionally loved to roll to. In New York, I just think it's a tempo. It's house. You know, you're in your knees. You know, and Detroit likes a lot of the same music that we do. Old school Chicago. Detroit and DC is similar. Now, JB style in Detroit, excuse me, Chicago. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Old school Chicago, Detroit and DC is similar, and then JB is Chicago's second style, and they do the James Brown music, and they have mixed that music up to fit what they do. JB is a style of power moves, right? So it's always been hard for me to see like what's their basic role, but they got nutcrackers and splits. And when they're coming, they take over the floor. And although their music is similar to ours, it's like when I went to their sessions, I kind of almost had to just stand back and let them do what they do.
Right.
They calling the move, you can't be in the way when the move come through, right? But just showman, athleticism, and your folk in Cleveland, they got a couple of some of our favorite skaters come out of Cleveland. B1 is one. Just the trendsetters, just beautiful spins and turns, and again working those edges, a smoothness, how they crowd cutters, how they cut through the crowd. And again, you got to be smooth.
Right.
Don't touch nobody, and nobody falls. Right.
Right.
That's also the manners. I heard some young people talking recently about how people get offended when you're coming through, and I'm thinking to myself, then you don't know what you're doing, because they shouldn't know. Or it should be such a slight touch, and I'm going around you. And again, if by some chance, off chance, somebody falls, you right there. Oh,
right.
But it's never a rudeness. It is part of your smoothness and your duty to do that.
Yeah, I remember falling at the Shaw St. Clair. Here's what you better do. You fall down, you go ahead and stay down for me. Because they start jumping over you. They start jumping over like it's like a train come. Like, do I just don't get up? Just wait till they all get past, and here come the skate guard. So then and then they come back. You good, bro? No, I'm not good. Well, I'm having traumatic experiences.
If you got jumped over and to get hit, you good, right?
Right.
Because at DC again, that late skate at the big rink where you have 1,000 people on a trios fast to the outside, dominoes. If one person goes, and the same thing. By the time you get the first couple people down, you got people trying to jump
over you. Right? Oh, hold still, stay, don't move. Ah!
Yeah. And again, I have seen recently folks stay on the floor, and you talk about staying. Your job was to get up and get out the way, or roll out the way. Because you don't want that. You don't want to be the person that was a linchpin to that domino. So
that's awesome. Now, as we kind of wrap this down a little bit, what's next for the archive? Where you're trying to go? And I got one more follow-up question behind that one.
Well, one of the things I most want to remind people of is that this is truly by us, about us, and by us. And so we continue to want people to submit items. So as I hear about your family's history, Mark, do you guys got any documents? Do you have a flyer, photographs? If there's any business documents, people are willing or putting things in that explain rink ownership, what it looked like. We've got some real interesting pieces that talk about what was going on for different rinks in different parts of the country, what the prices were, what their interaction was with the community, what their interaction was with the roller skating industry. So again, we're still collecting. And I also want to say that's not just historical as in old, but your skate story now, right? 10 years from now, it's history. 5 years from now, it's history. So let alone 100 years. And so my goal is to amass a collection that attracts museums, because as you said, we're archives. Our goal is to put into the repository what a museum would want to display. So part of our reason for being here is to attract that kind of attention. We would love to be at the Museum of African American History and Culture. When I mentioned those 130 archive stories, that was with StoryCorps. That was part of the Griot project. So we have a basis for an exhibit there. And so this is to highlight that roller skating is something that is historic, that clearly has a cultural energy to it, and that it is a phenomenal museum opportunity, because not only can we give you this, but we got some great video, we got some great performers, we have some really interesting elders and people in this community who could share a lot of valuable information. And like I said, it not only is skating, but it's the Black migration, it's the civil rights movement. I mean, there were lots of sit-ins that were attached to recreation and roller skating in particular. So we can take this any way you want to, display it or hear about it. Women, men, competitive. So our goal, honestly, is to share as many of these stories as we can, but also to continue to collect them. All
right. So put the call. Now you don't talked about it, archiving. Give me the specific call out of how I get my collecting stuff, my history, my docs, whatever, to the archive, which is you. How do I go about doing that?
please go to ourfamilyskateassociation.org.
Say it again.
Ourfamilyskateassociation.org, and all the details are there.
And which IG? Because people got to do the IG thing.
And you know what? I got somebody who tells me those things, and they're not standing here. We're gonna have to add that, Mark.
Lord have mercy.
There's a hashtag.
Denise, hold on, Denise, you on the line? I see you out there. Please put in the chat what the IG page is, because sister girl here is she's backwards skating right now. She won't put on there.
That ain't my thing, y'all.
All right, so where are we located in DC? Somebody want to come by? Do we get to come by and visit, or how are we doing this?
Please check us out on event. Oh my goodness.
Eventbrite?
Eventbrite. Yeah, you have to schedule appointments. We still are trying to be COVID friendly. It's a ticket for a 45-minute slot. You and 3 or 4 of your friends can come in at a time, and we'll walk you through. But it's by appointment only.
So if I go to Eventbrite, I'm looking up
roller skating then and now.
Roller skating, y'all got that? Roller skating then and now on Eventbrite. So go check it out. But I want to thank you for your time. Again, we're going to have this into the magazine with these pictures. Let me tell you something. This is interesting, y'all. This is really, really, it takes you back. It takes you back, and I appreciate the work that you and your team are doing here to keep this part of our history in front of everybody. Oh, lights over, the show's out. So, anyway, that's all I got for y'all right now. Let's see who's on the timeline. What's up? Hey, Denise, I saw you. What's up, Dr. Coffee? Appreciate you watching. Anyway, this is Off the Bench in the city. I'm going to have to start a whole new segment. Off the Bench, I was at All-Star Game last weekend. This is ridiculous. So anyway, I'll holler at y'all later. Remember this, as always, if you can reach your dreams with a step ladder, then they're probably too low. I'm out.